The ultimate prize in the NAL is a top 2 seed. Almost every team who's gotten a top 2 seed has made it to its corresponding major. That's the prize C9 BC and Spacestation are fighting to claim, but tonight, they have to go through one another to do it. And what a sight it will be to behold. Welcome back to the North American League. I'm Jacob, he's Laxing, he is Foxay. We are now at the point where with so many playoff spots locked in, it's really just a fight for who gets to those top 2, and again, only one team in history since we've had playoffs has gotten a top 2 and hasn't made a major, so it's a pretty good omen.
And that goes into what I was just about to say. You know, we touched up on this even at day 1 and just talking about the format, the stage, and everything is as important as it is getting first place, second place. It makes you feel good, but in the reality of in the grand scheme of it, it doesn't really mean anything. Sure, it puts you at the top, but that does not guarantee you a spot in Montreal, to say the least. You still
haven't gotten there yet.
You still have to play games in order to secure that spot. It just makes it kind of easier.
Yeah, obviously everyone wants to get to that point, but when you're in a situation like this where you can get to it, obviously you are playing at peak performance to be able to secure yourself in the top 2. Once you're past that point, I mean, you're just happy to be there focusing on playoffs, making sure that you're fixing the issues that are here. And when you have a matchup against 2 top teams at the moment, SSG, C9 BC, obviously no matter who comes out on top, the loser will obviously have so much to take from in order to improve, to make themselves secure, and hopefully right the wrongs in the playoffs.
Yep, still only 1 point separates both of these squads in the playoff race at the moment, but it's all a matter of who's able to jump just a couple more points ahead, because again, the race at the top is super tight. Dark Zero's up there, Sonics, M80 were making a pretty solid case. Now it's a matter of who else can jump into that fray. And we'll start with the boys in blue or green, depending on how you see their jersey. It's C9 BC, and they finally hit another roadblock. Played 3 straight games on Consulate, played Dark Zero, couldn't win any attacks, despite their being one of the best attacking teams in the league, and now they're looking for a bounce back after basically being locked out of their fortress.
Yeah, and I believe it was due to a little bit of lack of quality that created then a false sense of reality.
Lack of quality?
Yeah, the lack of quality. When you see the Consulate that they played it 3 times. And when I'm talking about lack of quality, you beat Wildcard, you beat Los. They're at the bottom of the standings.
Got it.
So in terms of the quality of that, you clearly see here when they played Wildcard, they were at peak performance on Consulate. Then you see Los tapers off by 8%, nothing too crazy. But then you play Dark Zero, a more renowned roster, a more historic roster, you drop by 25%. That's a pretty big drop when you compare those two, but it goes to show, again, the lack of quality, the lack of consistency that you just can't have against a top team. And then here during round 7, this is what I'm talking about. Beastcoast has always looked strong. They play their fundamentals. They make you play their game, so it's very crazy to even think that you're able to pull a flank off given how well and how coordinated Beastcoast C9 look on attack. And I believe they were the 2nd highest rated team on attack. So again, to be able to pull off a flank against these guys, like, you really have to catch them off guard. You really have to be able to play against their style of play, and that I've just so much talked about. So again, this is a great heads-up play from Nave to be able to get this flank off and not only secure this next round by downing their coverage and then just playing it safe. But then as we continue to go further into these rounds, I believe we're now going to go pull this round 9. This is what I really can appreciate that Dark Zero did their research, and then this is also an ego pick from C9 Beastcoast, is DZ quickly identified of how they want to play against C9 Beastcoast here due to playing it 3 times. And they realized that they can isolate and take these isolated 1v1s and turn these into 2v1s, ultimately putting them in a man advantage or at least equaling the man count. But when you see in this round specific is they have all the vertical pressure at this point. They are now forcing C9 Beastcoast to play their style of Siege, where C9 Beastcoast the past 2 games have forced the other teams of Wildcard and Los to play their game of Siege. So again, once again, you see this, all the vertical pressures being held. It forces C9 Beastcoast into pretty much unwinnable positions just due to the fact they've already played this for 3 times now going into this.
Yeah, and because of those 3 times that they have played, Dark Zero actually had 2 VODs to be able to gather from C9 BC, and I agree completely. C9 BC probably used a lot of the strats that they wanted to against weaker teams, and because those weaker teams weren't at par and weren't making the games go the distance, C9 BC probably didn't feel like they needed to change anything. They felt a little reluctant to change and just focus on their same game plan, which Dark Zero obviously took advantage of it in the prep.
It definitely feels like Consulate's kind of run its course, I think, at this point. In best of ones, you do that for as long as you're able to get points off of it, and now you try a couple of different things out for the rest of the stage, right?
And again, I think it really just came down to the lack of quality of what they versed in, because Hot and Cold specifically...
Right, they beat 2 bottom teams.
Yeah, Hot and Cold specifically even said, when we asked him, why Consulate again, he said, Vivid came over, we usually were bad at it. He created strats for us. We looked really good. And then you play it 2 times, you look great on it, but now you play Dark Zero, and a completely change of performance.
So we're going to hope that one loss doesn't knock them too far off their stride. So we just did a quick check-in with Hot and Cold to see how things have gone so far this stage and what we can look forward to heading into the Super Week.
I'm Hot and Cold, and I play for Cloud9 Beastcoast. The beginning of groups has been kind of rocky for us. You know, we started off with the loss against M80, probably one that we shouldn't have lost, but it's BO1s at the end of the day, so every game, even if you win or lose, always feels kind of close. And then I think we won 2 after that, and then we just lost our last one to DZ, and then now we're going into the Super Week. So it's been ups and downs. I would say we're generally trying to work on keeping both the sides consistent. That's our biggest problem right now, is just consistency on a day-to-day basis. I think our playstyle kind of fits the meta almost to a T. Like, we could play every power up in the game. You know, we have 2 different shield players. In my opinion, Spirits is the best shield player in the game. I think Gunner's playing well. He's, you know, playing like how he was at the major. It's easy to win when you have a player playing like that. You could see it just from watching his camera. Like, it brings a lot of passion to the team, which is huge. It's really good to have like that guy that's just yelling after every round, and I feel like Sean does that for us, and it's really helped.
You took my lane kill, man.
Matthew, Hot and Cold. I'll see you in the lobby. You know, they won the major and stuff. We don't care. We're here to play NAL.
The easiest goal is obviously win all the games next week, but SSG, I mean, you heard it in their last interview. Liam was calling me out. He likes to call me out and say that he'll do things, and then he'll insta-mute chat when he joins the lobby. He's all talk. He's like a little chihuahua, just like yapping at your feet. I mean, I can't wait to beat those guys again. So just win 2 out of the next 3, and preferably we get a top 2 spot, you know, get that bye going in the playoffs. So I think that's everyone's goal. I always have faith in us to come back in BO3s. I feel like we have a very strong map pool for those, and it kind of forces teams to get out of their comfort zone that they're in BO1s.
You heard it from Matt Stevens himself. He's looking forward to the game against Spacestation, specifically because Ashen decided to call him out in the interview. And you know, I think those are also strong words, even though Ashen can definitely back things up in the server. Hot and Cold is not about to let the guy who is the keyboard warrior, all chat king himself, let him get too much in this matchup, which would be a phenomenal thing for Hot and Cold and the gang, but for Spacestation and company, they equally have to make sure that they're on their game today.
Yeah, it was a nice little head-to-head. Ashen was like meditating for a second, and it's interesting to see Hot and Cold say that Ashen insta-mutes chats when you get into the game. There's a little element of mental warfare that's going to be in this match.
Yeah.
SSG has always been that team that's like all about, oh, don't let anybody get into our heads. We don't worry about who we're playing. But Hot and Cold's obviously, it's more of a grudge match between his previous team and Hot and Cold. So I don't know. There might be a little bit of tension there. Hopefully we get to see the chat pop off. And Ashen
That's what I was
doesn't
looking forward to the most.
Just whatever happens in all chat.
Absolutely.
And then hope that we actually get to see it on
they're
stream this
secure
time.
for playoffs anyway, so at this point it's just bragging rights of beating one another, but if I can see it in the team chat aspect, I mean, yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Again, the prize is top 2 because there's only been one team in playoff history who has not gone to the major as a result of hitting top 2. C9BC lost their last game. Spacestation are coming off of a big win over M80 on Bank just last week. Pitched a perfect second half, didn't allow any of M80's attacks to get through their skin, and generally looked like they're on a really positive path to playoffs here.
And it was a huge win, and it really leads me to believe that SSG is in full swing momentum. With the slow start, it's kind of the snowball falling down the mountain, slowly picking up speed, and I really do feel they are a boulder at the moment, and their defenses were so amazing in their previous game. But what was the strength of it was their adaptation and the way that they were able to play together as a team, especially on attack. That way that they were able to just completely open up and expose M80 for how they were. And it's about their play style and the way that they gather information that sets up playmakers to make these big positions. So this is a certain round. Ashen gets a huge pick on the player into Kitchen, and SSG's information gathering allows him to know that, hey, I can make a play. I just got rid of the Kitchen player. I can now take this position. M80 has no idea that he's behind them. And with the information, the way that SSG sets up their players, he knows there's an open player. Once he gets rid of this guy, he knows exactly where the second player is going to come from help down the box hatch. He clears him out. And obviously, the rest of the round is just clean up because SSG, the way that they've set up their attacks is so nice. They have full information of everywhere they need. They make a perimeter around the site. And obviously, whoever is in the position to make the right call and make a play makes it. And obviously, more often than not, it is Ashen. Sometimes it's towards Benja, but obviously Ashen has been having a performance that was amazing, especially against M80, and SSG's fundamentals is what set him up for that huge play that we saw.
Yeah, and I mentioned last week, I think this was by far the best version of SSG that we've seen so far, where it looks like there weren't any errors that were being made that we've seen from them. We said we want to see them to be able to improve, and I think they really displayed their best performance against M80 of working around such a big map like that, where that really does take a lot of teamwork and a lot of the IGL to facilitate the round. And Fultz also had a really pop-off game. We didn't get to talk about him too much, but I believe he was actually first on that leaderboard, or maybe underneath Ash.
He was up there, yeah.
I can't remember, but the fact that that's the performance that they had, it leaves me to question, are we going to continue to see this form of SSG, or was that kind of a one-off and we're going to start to see a little more mistakes even going into today's match? Even if this match really isn't as important since they've already qualified for playoffs, I still think they still want to keep that consistency that we saw on Bank against M80.
I think it's also a great case when we're not talking about Benja very much, because if we were, maybe we'd be questioning whether he fit into this team. Yeah. He fits in great. He's top on leaderboards. Forrest is right there with him. SSG are firing on all cylinders right now. They still maintain that 1-point lead over C9 BC going into this matchup. And we're getting Lair for the second time today.
So I think to me, with Lair coming out, especially in a situation like this where both these teams are still sitting pretty, it's kind of just like, you're just going to try it. You're just going to want to see what it looks like, so that way you can know whether or not it's viable enough for playoffs, or you can take from it and make it stronger and use it as a playmaker or a placeholder for playoffs. Yeah,
both teams obviously just trying to test it out. There's nothing for them to necessarily lose besides points, and of course you want to play at full force, get as high as you can, and that's obviously what both teams are, but this is the exact moment where you can try Lair in a competitive setting to where there's no real loss if things don't go your way. And as for what you were saying with, is SSG going to be consistent? I really do feel like since they've gotten Benja, it's only been an upwards climb, getting to the peak of the mountain, and I feel like they've finally reached it. They've got Benja situated on the team. Everyone has been able to situate themselves around their new roles, being able to help Benja and Ashen get those openings, and I feel like they are in full form, and everything is finally clicking for them to start playing at a consistent high level.
This also isn't the first time Spacestation are trying out Lair in a competitive setting, by the way. If you remember back in Restart,
we did see it in Restart.
They played it against Makers, and that was an infinite overtime matchup, and they still won.
It was a very close game, to say the least, and we did see really nice adaptations coming out of SSG that game in particular. But again, this map, it's really hard to call, because this is really a toss-up. It's just really, again, more so for both these teams to get a feel for it of a game day instead of a scrim, because as we all know, and as we know specifically, game day versus scrim days are entirely different in terms of what you can take from. So I think this is just a matter of both teams just being able to learn and take from this and really grow Lair and bring it into their map pool for the future.
Yeah, they're both very adaptable teams, very aggressive teams. The attacks are going to be probably very interesting to watch, to see how both teams will fare up against each other. And it's the most exciting match that we could have asked for, I guess, with these two teams.
Watch for win C9 BC attack and Spacestation defend, because that's both teams' best side, and they're both top 2 in the league currently in that respect. So when we see that side manifest, be sure to have your eyes glued to your screen. Remember, the bounty to see who can get into top 2 is still waiting to be claimed. We don't have that portion of playoffs locked down quite yet, and he who wants it more will be right there in contention with Sonics and Dark Zero. Time for Lair number 2 with Jesse and Parker.
A lot on the line here in this matchup, but more than anything, I think this is the time where if Cloud9 Beastcoast want to repeat as major champions, they gotta start to hit their stride, because you heard it in the document or the video that Hot and Cold did, where he said, we had a bit of a slow start in the first stage. Well, you're having one a bit again. You gotta find that top gear. You gotta find that 6th gear and get yourself into a position where you can beat teams like Spacestation, where you can beat teams like M80 and Wildcard, and make sure that you're in the best place possible to go on another deep run. The public is very deeply divided, as these teams are very close to each other. Spacestation in 4th place, Cloud9 Beastcoast in 5th, and your favorite time of the day is upon us.
The Nice comes on out, and that's a bit of a surprise. The Dokkaebi was no surprise at all. Cloud9 Beastcoast love banning that. Hot and Cold says, good ban. The last time SSG played this, they banned Ying Tubarao. They'll switch both up. Monty into Malusi. Very odd to get a Malusi ban here in 2024. Nice to see that. She is very strong now, of course. Secondary shotgun can really do a lot of damage with that. So a reliable operator. Valkyrie, Dokkaebi both make a lot of sense. Beast Coast have been banning out. Or sorry, Zombie, not Valkyrie. What am I saying? Oh, that's a bit of a shock too then.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. I was going to say, they've been banning out Valkyrie in like every single game prior to this matchup. So I just assumed I was right.
You shush me?
And I wasn't. So Valkyrie gonna be up and a Zombie gonna be taken off the board, and Spirits in our very first round, and his very first round ever playing Lair in a competitive setting, will jump on the Tachanka to get us underway.
Remember when we used to make fun of the Azami ban, Matt? Look now. It's a Wendigo, by the way. You were asking, well, okay, so the public didn't know this, but while we were waiting to get into the match, you were asking about the theme of the Montreal Major. And I don't know if you saw it, but there was actually a content piece during the intermission between the matchups. And a Wendigo is a mythological creature from like Algonquin folklore, which is a North American like indigenous tribe, where it's like this big creepy beast that has like antlers and stuff, and it hangs out in the woods. I don't know if it ever was on like the traditional, you know, First Nation soil that is now Montreal. I have no idea, but you know, they're that's the theme they're going with. You know, a quick Google seems to suggest it's in Northern Ontario, which is, you know, the last I checked, it's not where Montreal is, but I mean, either way, still pretty cool. All the same, and that's what the branding for the Montreal Major seems to be revolving around, given the drone skin and the operator card.
Yeah, I think it's super cool, honestly. I'm a big fan. I think, honestly, just from what I've seen, I think it's my favorite theming that we've had for a Major so far. Manchester was kind of cool. We had the whole, like, lion set up with all the drone in the background card for obviously the United Kingdom. Even though, fun fact, lions, not indigenous to the British Isles.
Oh, Spirits dies, and Ashen is already hit with the question mark. I was going to say, the moment that Kobilax killed Newers in that final round of DZOXG, he was on the keys faster than I've seen anybody talking in chat. And I got to say, that's great for some vibes. And Ashen is definitely a vibes guy. And the fact that he gets that pick on the Spirits, the Tachanka immediately dying, and we say immediate because we're talking 30 seconds into the round.
Yep.
That's got to mentally boom you.
Yeah, it doesn't feel very good. Now Benja can work from down below. That secondary shotgun, not quite a skeleton key, but still can be very effective. And this blitz of Forest wants to get on in and make some chaos. It'll likely be an R6 room plant. I believe Faults is just behind Forest, so they can come in through that angle together. The clash is going to be a bit of a problem. They're going to need to get some back pressure to pinch that clash. Of course, playing over by the mask could certainly help out. The smokes will charge through, and they will be trying to make their way. They've found their way into, I was going to say, hold on, storage. They're not there yet. Ashen's going to be that pinch player. Watch out for him inside of display. He could get behind and kill that clash if somebody else can't from the front.
As Blitz is going to be the big focal point as Forest lets him hang. J9O dies to Gavin. Cloud9 Beastcoast are rebuffing the advances of Spacestation. Now they'll be knocked around. Hot and Cold loves his shields. The feed of Forest cut away by Gavin, who's got all 3 kills for Cloud9 Beastcoast so far. Diffuser dead. Now it's Gunner under fire from Ashen as Benja's not far removed. Out goes a smoke to try and conceal the advance from one angle. Gunner on the ground, pulverized by Benja. Gavin a quad kill. Can he get them all? Ashen's last man standing. That's the target. Hot and Cold won't likely be the one involved in the fray. And how about an ace for Gavin to start this match? Every player of SSG ends up in his crosshairs and he makes them pay.
A perfect start for the 22-year-old entry fragger on Beast Coast. Not a player that I think got enough credit after they won the Manchester Major. A lot of people wanted to talk about Gunner. A lot of people wanted to talk about Diffuser. And certainly they both played amazingly in that Major. But Gavin really is the backbone of this team. So consistent in that early round, both on attack and, of course, defense, as we're seeing in this first one. Having a fantastic performance. His positioning, his aim, it is all perfect. He can handle players with guns, he can handle players looking at him, he can handle players with shields, doesn't seem to matter. He always does come out on top. One of the greatest players in all of North America, Gavin having a perfect start, 5-0, as we begin here on Lair.
Very well done as well by the C9 Beastcoast team. But SSG also gave multiple 1v1v1 engagements as they pressed into the site. So a bit of a challenge for them to find themselves in that spot. I am very curious how Spirits died on the Tachanka so early. I don't know if we saw it on the replay. I had my head down during the replays, but if you'd like to fill me in, I would appreciate that.
I totally watched the replays.
Great. I'm very glad that you did as well. I cannot believe that Tachanka died that way. Wow. What an opening for C9 BC.
The way that it went down.
That really, you know what? It feels like I was there.
We'll go to bunks and briefing. It's been a very popular bomb site for a lot of teams, and I like this Nook play from Ash. I'm going to be walking up yellow. Will find his way right at the bomb site now. Saw actually a very similar play to this in Brazil the other day, Parker, if you'll remember. The drone coming through will be a little bit of a tell, but do they know? It doesn't seem like they do, and that's a free first pick from Ashen deep in the bomb site.
Question mark? No, Ashen does not hit him with the question mark. He's a little bit, he's a little busy here. Ashen looking for more now as he's got the gas around him. He's in the middle of the bomb site. Folt's getting the diffuser down. This is full control at the moment for SSG, and that's bad news for Cloud9 Beastcoast. What is Ashen doing there? Gavin, a 6th kill. You've got to find 4 more bodies on the side of SSG before you can pull off a counter disable. Gavin looking for a 7-0 start. Nitro Cell will go out, but they backed far enough away. Spirits on the board now. Now it's Diffuser 2. Cloud9 Beastcoast really excelling in these engagements. Forest, a nice transition from Gavin to Gunner. And a counter disable from Spirits. Up above, J90 attempting in vain to shake them off of this spot. Forest dies. It's all J90 to try and keep it in tow. And he pulls out the sidearm. He'll get the job done. Spirits, no time whatsoever. The round will go to SSG.
And I think that's really a key example of SSG spotting a gap and going for it. They noticed that there were a lot of roamers for Beast Coast up on that top floor, as there often are, but they also noticed that the hatch was both reinforced and electroclawed off. That meant that there was no quick way for the defenders to get back towards the bomb site. You couldn't deny through the hatch, as oftentimes we do see teams go for a denial through that hatch. You can stop the breach walk-in if the hatch is open. Instead, they just were able to get that plant down. In theory, you can deny any plants on that bomb site from up above, but there was no intel from Cloud9 Beastcoast despite holding top floor, so they just could not stop that plant from going down. Excellent entry from Ashen. We talked about Gavin being a great entry player in round 1, and of course Ashen on that Nook, one of the best entry players on the other side of things to really do it. So beautifully played by Ashen to get things going. Good late round coming through from Forest and both J90 to clutch up that post plant, but they were in very strong positions. They had to play it well, and they absolutely did. So I like this. We've got a really great game on our hands to start, Parker. I know they were kind of lopsided rounds, but even still, I feel like both teams have played very well in their respective round wins.
Yeah, I think you're pretty much bang on the money right there, and we expect that with these teams. You know, obviously they're a bit of a cut above LG and Wildcard in terms of pedigree and in terms of experience, so you expect to see some level of gameplay higher up. But Lair is always kind of a, I don't want to say crapshoot, but I mean, Lair right now is a gamble for a lot of these teams as they don't have enough game day reps. Obviously, the restart tournament, which was mentioned earlier, that you've talked about a number of times on the broadcast, was brought up, but at the same time, game day reps at a tier 1 level are so important. Lair has not been played that frequently across all regions, so we're still watching teams figure it out in real time. Ashen loves to get very, very close very quickly, and unfortunately this time he's beaten. That's the opening pick for C9 Beastcoast.
Well, they'll take that man advantage, and of course, this is SSG's first time playing against a tier 1 opponent. In the restart tournament, they played against Makers, and that was after Makers lost some of their key players to other tier 1 teams. So I expect Cloud9 Beastcoast will be a bit of a tougher challenge for Spacestation. Already the Blitz is making its way through. Force does not have the Diffuse Kit, but he's getting the space all the same. Already they're in Missile, and they're looking to move into Toxin as well. The intel being gathered by Forest is very, very strong. Partly delayed, by that Goyo canister, but they can go in and hit the site anytime that they want. It's really a question of how do Cloud9 Beastcoast respond. They don't have a ton of roamers. Diffuser's up there in range, but no soft breach from him. Gavin just in the armory hallway, close to the stairs to fall on back. So a lot of these players aren't in good spots to deny this plant from above. They're going to need to get horizontal denial if they want to win this round. And with the smoke and some C4s, they certainly have the capability, but can they execute on it?
The big thing as well with losing the Twitch is now any Valkyrie cameras or Goyo canisters that you stumble across will exist for the entirety of the round. The value that is found from C9 Beastcoast, and obviously the mirror windows as well, those can be dealt with without a drone. That's going to be the bigger issue right now for SSG. They've lost Benjamaster after Forrest gets on the board, and now it's Fultz to smoke himself off. It looked like he was able to get out of that position, but he's dropped. Forrest, another kill. This shield, this blitz, working out so effectively for him. 4 kills to his name. And if your teammates can make space, you find an awful lot of value. Oil canister prevents the entrance for Forrest there. He's caught up in a crossfire. All the while this is happening, Fultz gets the diffuser down, and now the time starts to run against Cloud9 Beastcoast. J90 last in a 1v2 from Missile into Toxin. Those 2 sites you talked about, which don't even sound like parts of the map, by the way. J90 with yet another. He was sensational in locking out the diffuser last time, and it will be him and Spirits in a rematch from before. Does J90 win it again? He did it with the sidearm last time. Very few bullets remaining. Spirits will have to get closer. Oh my God, what a shot. Spirits will have plenty of time too. Beautifully played by Cloud9 Beastcoast, and Spirits will have his revenge.
Great play on that smoke. I was worried at first because he missed those toxic babes. Fultz got the plant down with only 20 HP and no smoke was covering him. It was a default plant spot just coming in from lockers. Unfortunately, the smoke not able to deny that, but a great 1v1 that I really thought J90 was going to walk away with. Wouldn't be the first time he clutched in this game. Could have gone back to back, but shut down by Spirits. Fantastically played from the French-Canadian player on Beast Coast. The way that he was able to walk around and hit that shot was just perfect. The intel was there for Spacestation, but fortunately, Spirits was better. So good late round. I don't think it was a bad push at all from SSG. I think they had a good opportunity to get in there, and they did get the plant down. It was a little bit telegraphed though, and despite getting a couple of those early gunfights, Cloud9 Beastcoast knew exactly what the deal was with that push, and they were able to collapse, get those kills. Tooth and Nail, a very close one, but it's a 2-1 lead for Beastcoast as we go into our first tech pause of the game.
Was it our first match of the day, that the only match that was managed to avoid a tech pause, or have we had one?
Was there one in DZ Oxygen? That was game 2, because game 1 was M80 Los. There was no, there were tech pauses in M80 Los. There were 2, and it was still so fast.
Well, this one's going to be quick. We are ready for a break. We will be back when everything is ready. Back in action as Cloud9 Beastcoast had just prevailed in the round prior. Spirits killing J90 as J90 attempted to watch over that diffuser. It was an exact rematch from, what was it, round 2? And unfortunately, J90 finds himself on the wrong side of it. The scores don't show it, but Gavin, I think, was 6-1 at this point.
Yeah, something crazy like that. Ace to start the round if somehow you missed it.
I didn't.
Yeah, I was more talking to the viewers, actually.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
He got an ace in the first round. In case you missed it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm just here to assist you at this point.
In the first round, we were also on the same bomb site, and there was a Tachanka being brought out by Spirits. Nice job hiding, they say to, I believe, Hot and Cold, who was trying to hide the fact that he was playing Clash. He clearly did not hide that well, so they've spotted him out, and they should know there's a Clash coming out here. I guess the Buck is a good counter to Clash. I was trying to say, before I was rudely interrupted, that Spirits was on the Tachanka in the very first round. He was opening death, he didn't get to use his ability, and now he's playing the smoke. So, operator that does very similar things, but more of a common, more of an orthodox choice. Very good, both Tachanka and Smoke, for denying the mask plant. If the attackers get in control of operations and then move to mask, they can open the wall. Very hard to deny that plant just by shooting your guns, by swinging. So A lot of times people do like to bring that plant NAL operator of smoke or Tachanka or even just C4s.
I do like that SSG just reveals everything in the chat. Like, what? I like that there's no... It's not like they're like, hey, guys, let's pretend that they know that the clash isn't there. Spirits dies very, very early again. Not on the Tachanka, but this time on the smoke. And that is a debilitating loss. And with there being no gas, SSG is just going to flood towards the site. C9 BC is ready for it. Benjamaster trading back 2 kills. Gavin a double, and it's all up to Forrest. There is 1 minute and 40 seconds remaining in this round. Hot and Cold's being battered around like a ship in a storm as Forrest tries to get closer, but will be slowed down and will take some damage in the process. 'Tis but a scratch, a minor flesh wound, as Forrest is in a very, very hard spot. He can't do any damage to Hot and Cold. Oh, wait. I actually thought my feed froze for a second there because both players stopped moving at the exact same time. That is very coincidental. What do you do in this position? The doorway's got a Capkin trap on it.
W
try to... There you, 7 damage.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, your best plan of attack is leave the building and think about round 5, because this is not really winnable.
He's trying.
He's
really trying.
He's certainly using his abilities. I don't know that it's accomplishing much. You've cleared the shield. Nobody was going to play that shield anyways. I thought y'all pushed fast. They're trying. To be fair, they were trying. A little tough, though, when there's a clash standing in your way. I believe they call that no gas, all breaks, as they tried to funnel up the lobby stairs to get into mezzanine, but they just could not get it going. They spotted out the clash clearly in the prep phase based on the chatter that we saw, but they didn't counter the clash in any meaningful way. They had the buck. They could have gone below and tried to find a clash kill that way. Didn't happen. They tried to push really early into the round. Maybe they thought they were catching somebody off guard, but really got caught up on those stairs. Had a bit of an awkward round, and the finish dragged on a bit, but good defense for Cloud9 Beastcoast. Not sure exactly why SSG chose to go so quickly on that push. Probably just finding that Spirits went down early and thought they could capitalize off of it, but not to be.
I'm glad that production saw the comments on social media about how entertaining the chat can be. And now they have freed these players, because I gotta say, the trash talk between C9 BC and SSG has been more entertaining than some of the rounds that we've had to watch today.
10 seconds remaining.
And I mean, I'm not really shocked. These teams do not particularly like each other. SSG is a very unlikable team. That's what a lot of the teams in the NAL will say. Really great players on it, but unlikable in the way that they approach the game. And I think personally, narrative-wise, that is excellent. Not everybody can be a hero. Some people need to be villains. And what is esports, or sports in general, without braggarts? Diffuser guns down Benjamaster, and it sure looks like he was about to type.
It did.
Benja, by the way, is still playing from the surface of the sun, as you saw from his player cams when they were briefly up. There has been an opening pick in the first 30 seconds of every single round except for one. This is quite the pace that these teams are setting.
You'd think that Denmark would get better ping than the Sun, but they've actually got fiber optic there, and it's quite good.
Yeah, that's what it is, isn't it?
They're going to commit to full clearing the top floor after they lost Benja. The Thatcher is an important operator, especially with a Bandit on the board, but if you can get this full top floor control, it's not going to be the biggest deal in the world. You should be able to deal with those batteries from up above. Of course, getting the top floor is usually much easier said than done as well. Cloud9 Beastcoast have 2 players up there at the moment, Gavin and Spirits, with more able to rotate up if needed. It's been over a minute now, and they've yet to enter the building. It's only Ashen who's currently inside of bunks on that main floor, not really contributing to this top floor push. Will just be a bit of a lurk later on in the execute. And I'm not even 100% that they are going to full clear this top floor. They've been very slow at it thus far, so still trying to work their way in as they start to open the wall from outside. They might be able to find an entry point, but Ashen's just also competing at the site, so it's a bit disconnected right now from SSG.
Well, when you're down your Thatcher, it's going to be challenging for you to get rid of some of these electronics on the defender's side. You've got to put it all in J9O's hands, as the Twitch drone will now go to work and get shot away through the soft wall. I mean, he tried to get into the room, but I mean, it ultimately did not work out at all. And with that, Gavin saw where the drone had come from, and now he's going to take up a more forward position. And you can see the orange silhouettes. One will cross very quickly. Gavin just missing that opportunity. He's been damn good so far today. Pulls out the sidearm, bites off a bit more than he can chew, Jesse. And that toothless aggression from C9 Beastcoast is capitalized on by Fultz.
But they will have top floor control. So they're going to use that to open up the hatch. The last two Selma charges, they are not going to care about the bunks wall. They don't want the outside wall to the site. They'll say, screw it, we'll just take the hatch. Thank you very much. Full top floor at the moment. Now they can drop down this hatch. They can walk down the green staircase. They can try to make an execute go. But little hard breach and only a few more Candelas. Ashen holds one in his pocket. He didn't really get much. Here comes the last Candela to try to make the push work.
Ashen will hopefully follow up on this. The A-bomb site will within reach. Forrest has been usually good for multiple kills on that blitz. He only finds one. Ashen on the board, Fultz another. And Spirits will once again find himself in a post plant. J90 gets the diffuser down, and 3 players from SSG are still remaining. They'll see exactly where that gas comes from, so they know where his advance will be, and Ashen pounces on that opportunity. SSG denies Cloud9 Beastcoast another round, and this one, while still being in favor of C9 BC, is closer now.
Yeah, interesting round start to finish. I mean, the top floor was initially heavily being contested by Beastcoast. They eventually gave it up for the 4v4. I don't know if that was the right call. Obviously, the hatch was closed, but the Selmas came out. They managed to open up the hatch, and that enabled the drop from the blitz of Forest. They also knew they had to deal with a Ying coming down from bottom green stairs. So there was a lot inside this site, and I just don't know if Cloud9 Beastcoast really had the angles. They were fully blind. They had no flanks retaking top floor, and it just felt like SSG had full map control. They had full ability to pull that execute off. I think a little scrappy. They lost a couple of fights, but I mean, that's natural. I think SSG are going to be very happy with how that overall transpired. And just an interesting defense from Cloud9 Beastcoast. I think it got kind of figured out. Most teams on this site, from what I've seen internationally and here in North America, have chosen to open that site hatch and then try to play for their lives up above. But a bit of a different approach from Cloud9 Beastcoast does not work in round number 5.
5 seconds left before insertion.
You know, both of these teams have excellent gunners on their side, and they both want to knock each other off stride. SSG's been looking for early picks every single round. They've gotten it a couple times, but Cloud9 Beastcoast have had the upper hand as well as they look through windows and doors for an early pick. Collision course at the moment from the Goyo of Diffuser and Ashen. As he gets droned in, the Nook can find some serious value here, but Diffuser is backed far enough away. I don't think there's another player within striking distance of Ashen as he looks for the follow-up. That's Benjamaster, by the way, who has blotted out the sun. Down go the blinds. I guess it was too bright for him in his room. The early entry from the Nook does not do anything at all, and Ashen will come up empty-handed. Cloud9 Beastcoast still roaming around the map.
Unlike in round 5, they're opening the site hatch this time. They're holding inside of Armory. If SSG get control of that, they could be in a very strong position. They're going to try to do just that at the moment with, of course, this Lion Charge ringing on out. They can see the movement of Gavin. They're waiting for him to walk into the crossfire, and they do take the shots. It's messy, but he gets it done. Ashen for the open pick now coming in from range. That's one of the 3 roamers taken out. Spirits went back to site, so it's only Diffuser that remains here on the mid floor. He sees the blitz and he runs for the hills. Of course, being scanned by the Lion, but it's better than being killed by a blitz. Can he make it out alive? No, he cannot. And at the same moment, Spirits inside the bomb site tries to come up and help and also gets gunned down. Finally, some luck as Gunner retakes the top floor, but isn't going to be enough. The bomb site is all for hot and cold as 4 players bear down on it.
You blink and you miss it. Oh, and an opportunity for Houghton to try to equalize, or at least get close. He finds 1 kill, cannot grab Fultz on the second, and the numbers get better for SSG. The objective play for Spacestation has been mighty fine. Gunner will drop, get closer to the bomb site. Fultz not confident enough to be able to pull this one off. Fire, grenades, my. Great coordination on that. And SSG will tie things up. Layer, a defender-sided map through and through. Does this bode well for SSG as they got 3 rounds on attack and now they move to defense?
Sorry, I just opened up the chat and Ashton typed, "How do you die to that?" What I really liked from that push of SSG was their ability to roam clear so successfully. I loved the Lion from J90 combining with the Blitz, combining with all the angles that they had. They just survived all, there's the text. They survived all around the top floor and were able to hold the cutoffs as Cloud9 Beastcoast just had to panic. The Lion charges came through, the splashbangs came out, and they just panicked far too much. SSG had all the cutoffs beautifully done as they initially looked like they were going to lose this first half. Not to be, they clawed back and get a 3-3 first split.
Yeah, I like where this positioning is for Space Station as they switch sides around. From Cloud9 Beastcoast, do not be surprised to see them bring a shield at some point in time, but right now, the only pseudo shield they're bringing is the Osa. She doesn't exactly function the same way as a traditional shield, but if she's got that Talon shield in front of her, she can still take up ground and be hard to deal with, but you have to put it away if you want to actually get involved in the action. SSG has a jump out primed and ready. And there's a couple silhouettes near Ashen. Does he take the bait? He's looking for it. But Cloud9 Beastcoast have made it to the top. No opportunity for Space Station.
Fair enough. No harm, no foul. Nobody goes down. This Osa push from Houghton's going to be interesting. Likely going to try to use it to take control of operations and then perhaps for the plant as well as they try to execute in towards Mask and Master. That talent shield can be very difficult sometimes to navigate around with, and oftentimes we do see pros countering it quite easily. I like the mirror window counter coming out from Gunner, playing that Ashe. Usually Gavin's operator. Gavin, I think the most Ashe picks out of any player in the league. Certainly top 2. At the moment, though, they are actually going to move the Osa shield over towards the more the storage side of the map. So they're not going to be going through operations. It will be an R6 room execute, probably the more common execute that we see being brought through the first couple of plays of Lara that we've seen in both North America and internationally. We've seen both attempted, but I do think a lot of teams are preferring this type of an execute. Watch out for Gavin on the display window. He's going to have those Candelas. He could cause a lot of chaos during this push if the players of SSG aren't careful.
That shield is set up. Diffuser now behind it as he finds safety to go on to drone. And that's a bit of sloppiness from Ashen, who doesn't see Gunner in this position after the mirror window had been broken just moments before. Deployable shield will be taken out as one of those Ashe charges is used by Gunner. J90 is in a bad spot right now. Not too far removed from the boss chair. Gas will go out. One still remains in pocket for Fultz, but plenty of time left, which means that you won't be able to blanket the site. Forest has the door frame where Spirits and Diffuser will push from the breach as well, not far removed. Forest winning that engagement. He's been good on his gunplay so far today. J90 as well, but Fultz and Benja will lose their life in the blink of an eye, leaving just 2 players left for Space Station. Make that 1 as Forest bites the dust. J90 with full HP and a full mag, but 3 players watching his position as he's not right now in the midst of the bomb site. He sees the Osa, and it's a bit of sloppiness, and oh my goodness, C9 Beastcoast win that one. What an exciting matchup at the moment we're witnessing, Jesse.
Yeah, not bad Osa play at all coming through from Hot and Cold. I believe he got 2 kills on that round. Of course, he played on SSG for nearly 3 years, went to 3 invitationals with them, got top 12 at least in all of them. So very familiar with some of the opponents, I should say, currently playing for SSG. I like the thing I liked about that push was how many dimensions it had to it. You had Gunner that was pushing in from operations. You had Gavin that was over by the display window, and then all 3 other players coming through storage, coming through the hallway to be the brunt of that execute. They really did have so much map control around that top floor. They pushed so many different angles, and they really did collapse together. They collapsed really nicely, taking advantage of some players in SSG who maybe overstepped a little bit, but of course the trades were always better for Cloud9 Beastcoast as well. So really clean take. I liked it a lot. Nothing bad to say about it. SSG caught a little bit off guard, went for a couple of risky moves, didn't pay off. I think we're shaping up to have a really good game on Lair here, Parker. Maybe it's early to call, but I can smell a 15-rounder.
I was going to say, I think overtime right now is on the docket. Obviously, there's no guarantee we get there, but it definitely feels like it's coming. Obviously, we can't get to 18 rounds like the last time this matchup was played, but I think we can go pretty deep into it. The lineup for Space Station, we're going to see a Skopos on the board, the new Greek operator with 2 robots, Colossus and Talos. And the way that they work is that the robot that is inactive will basically be a deployable shield with a camera on it. The other one is your active player. If you die as the active robot, that is it. You are dead. You do not get to have any more effect. But if the inactive robot is killed, you've effectively just lost a bulletproof camera. Right now, Ashen wants a peek through this door frame. Spirits is not far removed, and oh my god. He had the shield on his back. Spirits has not had the best entry back to this match after the rehost. 0-5, the scoreline for the French Canadian.
Yeah, not ideal, of course. Losing your blitz as well, an important operator. Here's the lurk from Gunnar. Ashen did this exact same play. Of course, the bomb site is on the basement, but the push is the same nonetheless. He will be able to find some of these roamers. There is Benja, bottom green, I believe, bunk corridor. So they have a couple of players that are nearby, but it's actually going to be Ashen, the first one to go down, traded after Spirits died to his spawn peak at the start. Gunnar, once he leaves this room and goes into the hallway, he could find a couple of bodies. Benja's up here, and Fultz is too for him to find.
And Fultz is waiting for something. Sees the castle barricade and knows that somebody is nearby, but he's fallen back enough with Benja, and this is a nice little hidey hole that these players have found themselves in. Benja needs to be very careful as he's exposed to that soft wall. He'll send down a goo mine, so that if somebody gets near, he'll gain at least some information. Forrest, he's having a terrific game, both on the blitz and now on defense as well. J90, the 1-2 punch here as the Nook walks in and the cross is made. Benja's prepared for that. C9BC are about to bid adieu to their lead. SSG just needs a single player. That's it, and it's a tie game. Our speculation that we need overtime, looking pretty good right now. Look at this. Boom!
Oof.
Oh, Fultz actually got the kill, but I was expecting it to be Forrest. Either way, they work together to seal the deal. 2 rounds on defense, 2 successful rounds for Space Station.
Yeah, I think everything was just a bit disconnected as soon as Spirits died on that blitz. Spirits obviously dies to a bit of a spawn peak type runout situation from Ashen where he's outside the building, shoots him in the feet. Then you see Diffuser and Hot and Cold go down towards the bomb site. At the same time, Gunnar is trying to clear up above on the Nook. Every player just felt like they were trying to do something different and nobody was able to connect with one another. Cloud9 Beastcoast just couldn't really get anything going in terms of those opening kills. So SSG, they held their angles, they won their fights. That roam that came out from, of course, both Benja and Fultz was certainly an interesting one too. Hiding inside of Medical as a bit of a duo. Could have been cleared out, I think, if it was a full dedicated 5-man roam clear from Cloud9 Beastcoast, but without all of their players there, they just couldn't quite get those trades. They couldn't quite clear them out of that room. So ultimately, we do have a 4-4 game now. SSG looking very good in that previous round, and we just keep on going back and forth in this matchup, Parker.
Yeah, and I mean, these rounds are relatively lopsided, which is what we were saying about the most recent matchup of LG versus Wildcard, was that most of those rounds were ending with 1 to 2 players alive. Not the case here. These are very definite rounds, dominant performances by the teams as they win and they get the first pick and snowball from there. And that first pick is also so hugely influential in this matchup. So if you are SSG and you can get that first pick, you are in great shape. You're on the better side as is. One small difference between these teams, SSG was looking for the early pick all often when they were on attack, and C9 Beastcoast were very happy to give them that. But the same can't be said now that we've swapped sides. SSG is playing a very sheltered style of defense. They are not looking for early picks on defense. They want Cloud9 Beastcoast to come in. They want them to fight for the spot, and they want them to fight for map control. And Cloud9 Beastcoast, so far through 2 rounds, are showing that they are struggling to do that.
Spirits is on the top roof, not just the balcony, so he is safe from spawn peaks for now. Safe from aggressive swings. He will have to drop eventually, and he does so. Looking towards, I believe this is top rock. What's this staircase called? I'm blanking on it right now. Top blue. There we go.
They're named after colors.
Yeah, they are. Trying to get in now. Faults will be the first one to take down Diffuser, though, instead. Elsewhere on the map, that was one of those top floor roamers. Faults is able to find that success. Every single player, in fact, on SSG locking down this top floor except for Benja. And a nasty surprise awaits J9O. It's a blitz shield. He will run away and he'll smoke it off, so keeps his head, keeps his life, and manages to stall things, but also does not get the kill that he was hoping for. Do they commit? With a minute 15, they would really like top floor control, but I don't think it's too strong right now. They might just have to go in through the green wall instead.
They've got a line of sight onto the bomb chassis. Have they determined the location of Benja? Now they will, as he manages to get away, but he's harassed by seemingly endless amount of drones and is now very worried about Gavin's advance from that same position. I believe Gavin's in double digits at this point. Spirits gets his very first kill since the rehost came in. He picks up a second as Hot and Cold dies elsewhere. Benjamaster, a nice shot onto Gavin, and it's Gunner and Spirits to do the rest of the work. SSG, for yet another round, is poised to carry on how strong this side of Layer is and make it work for them. A weird drop by Forrest. Gunner easily getting that last pick, and then we'll get Diffuser too. Fultz and Benja remain. Through the soft wall, a lot of damage is being done. Gridlock mostly shrugs that one off, but Benja subdues Gunner from that position, and it's 3 in a row and a flawless rotation for SSG.
You don't always expect to see Benja as an anchor, the one holding down the bomb site, but he certainly can do it. He has been the most successful player out of the 10 that we have in this lobby, a 0.9 KPR. He's averaging the 3rd most kills per round out of every player inside of North America. He's been really enabled on this SSG squad. Since he came in over the offseason, he has been playing absolutely lights out for SSG. On attack, usually shares some of those entry duties with Ashen, and then on defense can flex around to do whatever the team does desire. They've been very, very good on this defensive half. It feels like Beastcoast, every single time, they've been quite spread out on these pushes. Even in that last round, they had a couple players trying to pressure up above. That was mostly Spirits on the blitz. Meanwhile, they had some site players that were trying to pressure in and deal with Benja. The top floor push didn't go that poorly. They got some kills. They eventually got traded out. It was really the basement, or not basement, but the site push that did not find any success whatsoever. In this TAC timeout, I wonder what the strat is going to be. Do they try to group up a little bit more on the side of C9BC? Or is there some other way that they can make these split pushes work? Because at the moment, they are just very disconnected from one another on these takes.
It's like a team of individuals, so to speak.
Yeah.
Oh my. Not great for C9 Beastcoast, who are going to need to go back to the drawing board after the way that SSG has been handling them, and SSG's been on quite the run themselves. I don't know if maybe C9 Beastcoast got a little bit too happy early on by talking their ish in chat, and now SSG has simply been able to outmuscle them, but SSG does technically have the better record at the moment too, though it's very, very close. Spacestation with 11 points, Cloud9 Beastcoast at 10. The only difference is there was an overtime win for Spacestation versus an overtime loss for Cloud9 Beastcoast. And the round differential is very similar as well, Jesse, at a +7 versus a +6 for Cloud9 Beastcoast. So in basically every metric, Spacestation is ahead. If SSG can win with a clean 3 points here, I think it's a little bit too close for them to actually take second, but they would be tied in second, but trail Sonics based on round differential. It seems unlikely that Cloud9 Beastcoast will be able to emerge with 3 points themselves, but if they did, they would vault all the way up to 3rd over Spacestation and ahead of M80, who picked up a big win over Los on this exact map earlier today. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, though, because we've still got at least 2 rounds to go. And so far, SSG has been the superior team, and they've got the better side. A bunch of utility has been used by Cloud9 Beastcoast. Bees go in, a bevy of bees, actually, and a bunch of nades that are met by the magnets of J9O's Wamai. They managed to get the deployable shield and have opened up an avenue towards the bomb site, but there's still a lot more work to be done.
This clash, we saw it being utilized so well by C9BC. It's going to be brought by Forrest this time around. If you're pushing operations, it can be really awkward to get around a clash here. The best bet is probably go below, and that's exactly what the plan is from Spirits. Wants to move down here into medical, inside of lobby. A little bit vulnerable. Ashen is on the main stairs. Oh, but he's busy running out on hot and cold. I see. Now his position will be known, but he's already down Diffuse Kit outside. He is in a difficult situation. He's done probably enough, though. Taking down the ace, one of the most important operators, does eventually get cleared out. Spirits takes him down at the same time, though. Gunner also dies to J90, who got the vertical angle from up above. So this aggressive play from SSG right after the tactical timeout has completely disrupted the plans of Cloud9 Beastcoast.
You've lost the Deimos, which is great for intel work. You've also lost the only hard breach that was had for C9 BC. You don't have any secondary hard breach, and admittedly, Lair is a map where you're not often going to be taking direct engagement on these hard walls. You want to use your Selmas from longer range. Now you're just going to have to go for soft destruction, which they thankfully have in spades. Bailiff in the hands of Diffuser, and of course the skeleton key of the Buck will do serious work. SSG just needs to wait out the final 40 seconds, though, Jesse. They don't really need to do anything, and they've exhibited great patience for a team that tends to get a bit over-eager at times. A late rotate coming out from Cloud9 Beastcoast as they want to get closer to the site, but don't know exactly where to hit it. And the main impediment right now will be Forest. He plays shields on attack, so why not a clash on defense? Smokes will go out, the gas rather, to stop those bees from going in. And Benja blinded, gets 2. Gavin in an unwinnable situation, and Fultz gives him the mercy killing he deserved. SSG secure themselves 1 point. They're on match point with that one, Jesse.
Like a Charmeleon growing wings, it feels like SSG have evolved these last couple of rounds. They are unable to lose these opening fights. They're unable to allow a trade. What we're seeing constantly is just all of these players on SSG getting caught off guard. That was a beautiful play by Ashen out there on the roam. I really appreciate his ability to both frag early on the round on attack and on defense. That's something he has done throughout this stage. He's the most aggressive player in North America, taking 36% of all opening engagements across both attack and defense. It's pretty even across both sides. He has been very, very active in the early round for Spacestation. He does his job, and he does it extremely well. Despite the fact he's only 6-6 post rehost, the impact that he has by consistently winning those opening engagements, catching C9 Beastcoast off guard, has been so massive. And I think that last round was a great example of it. They tried to make that low man count execute work, but they just couldn't do it without the numbers. And because of that, SSG now find themselves on match point, as you mentioned, Parker, within striking distance of that top 2.
We turn our focus to the next 2 days, or well, 3 days rather, as we've got 3 straight days of group stages. Tomorrow, you and I will not be working, but then we're back in action on Friday. Sonics did not get to do anything today. They are off, as there are 9 teams. 1 team will unfortunately have to take a break. Wildcard is the team that has the very final day off, so we won't see them in action. As for the last day, or as for tomorrow, it's M80 who will have the day off, and M80 came very close to clawing their way into the top 2. If SSG can prevail, they will overtake M80 and sit tied with Sonics. But again, round differential is the big decider here. SSG, if they win this round, would go up +3, which would put them at a +10 overall round differential, but still below the Sonics at +12. There's still time for them to work their way up. SSG is in action tomorrow against Wildcard, and that's the final game for Wildcard, as we mentioned. If Wildcard lose in regulation there, not only will SSG have a very tight grip over the top 2 spots, but it will also effectively seal the deal for Wildcard, as they just simply won't have another opportunity to make up points. As for this Cloud9 Beastcoast team, they play OXG tomorrow, and then they finish against Sonics, which could be a hugely influential matchup depending on the way that today, tomorrow, and then the early games on Friday go. Cloud9 Beastcoast looking to stay in this. They managed to kill Ashen early. That's a great start. There's still time for SSG to recover. A round and a half, or rather half of the round to go, and the attack over towards Fultz will prompt him to pull out those smart glasses, but Cloud9 Beastcoast not really particularly eager just yet. Multiple players stacking up, and it's poor target allotment for Fultz. He goes after the objective, not the players. Cloud9 Beastcoast sweep right through him.
Actually, crazy cool Nomad play, using it to force him to shoot that. If he didn't, of course, would have been pushed back. So really nice coming out from Diffuser. You don't see that every day. The Candela is blinding more teammates than enemies as they start to work their way in through filtration. We need something to go well for SSG. They have two good operators with shotguns to try to lock down the site. They don't have any opportunity to flank. So of course, with these toxic babes now coming out, it's going to be really desperate as they stall out this push from Cloud9 Beastcoast.
How many nades landed the feet of Benja? It looked like more than just 2. Gavin continues his hot play. He's had an excellent day so far. And in this position, J90 is only expecting 1, but there's far more to deal with. Forrest will have to not just put the shield, but also his team on his back as he does some damage to Diffuser, but has given up his location in the process. Gavin looks for the cross. There's no way for Forrest to do this without dealing with the hatch control first. And it's Diffuser to get the job done himself and keep C9 BC in this. One more round of regulation, one more opportunity for Spacestation to get all 3 points. But for C9 Beastcoast, they need overtime.
I feel like Diffuser started wearing glasses and he just leveled up as a player. He's not yet putting up the plus 30 that he did in stage 1, but I still think he's really grown between the 2 stages. I think he's making some really smart decisions, doing some really cool stuff, not only finding that final pick, of course, in that round, but also playing the Nomad very effectively to try to clear out some more of those aggressive players as they tried to execute in towards the site. Loved that coming out from Diffuser. Obviously, the newest member, the youngest player on Beast Coast. I guess newest is kind of a given because they all joined at the same time. But the only rookie to be playing on this team, and I think he has really surprised people. A lot of people, when he got picked up, didn't have many nice things to say about it. A lot of people said that Cloud9 Beastcoast trolled by picking up Diffuser, and then he won a major with them, and that shut people up pretty quickly. So very nice to see Diffuser having so much success. I think his impact in that round was massive. We're going to need to be able to pull out some big stuff from him one more time to force that overtime and hopefully get a win over SSG.
It's not just that they won a major with him. He was an integral part with that Skyscraper matchup, really setting the tone and allowing Cloud9 Beastcoast to play at their fullest. I mean, they are really a full team, and they talk about it quite frequently, where they can't do it without each other. Yeah, sure, Spirits, who had an okay first half before the rehost, has had a little bit of issues here, but everybody on this team seems to be quite consistent. And when somebody has a bad game, that's all right, because they usually are alone. You don't often see multiple players on Cloud9 Beastcoast having a bad game at the same time. The scorelines are actually quite even across the board. Spirits is really the odd man out. 6 kills for Gunner, 6 kills for Diffuser, 5 for Hot and 5 for Gavin, 6 for Ashen, 6 for Forrest, 6 for J90. I don't know what is going on. Maybe it is Satan's favorite game at the moment with all the 666s that we are seeing. But this is a devilishly good match. And SSG have 3 minutes left. That's it. For them to gain all 3 points and take a big leap up in the standings.
And they've got to do it on what is usually considered the worst bomb site on Lair. It is Armory and Weapon for the final site to come out from SSG. They've yet to play it so far this matchup. Of course, after the tactical timeout, they've surely prepared something for this site. The site is often difficult to hold because the outside wall, the wall that goes straight into range, it's not technically an outside wall, but range is basically free for the attackers. This wall right here with the mirror window in it can often be breached very easily by the attackers, as the vertical denial on it is just in operations, which is very simple for the attackers to deny. So you don't need much top floor control to dominate on this site. You can also walk down these blue stairs, which Spirits looks to be doing, which will allow you into the other site on this map. It's very, very exposed on both sides. Very little map control is actually needed to execute onto this one. So surely SSG, they have a plan. 2 players up above, 3 in and around the site on the main floor, including a sentry being brought out by Forrest. And the blitz from Spirits will look to get in through Rock as Gunner is right here next to him and Hot and Cold not too far away. Hot and Cold actually ranged with the plants. This is really a 2-pronged push as Cloud9 Beastcoast have a very interesting setup coming out here.
Oh, Fultz is about to be in so much trouble as the pain train is but moments away. Forrest with the first kill. Gunner trades it back right off the rip. And the gas will linger, which will slow down Cloud9 Beastcoast. They'll just wait it out at this point. It looks like 2 canisters. It means Fultz has 1 remaining in pocket. and it will delay Spirits from getting to his intended location. But all of these players are ever closer to the bomb site. Diffuser is very far removed. What is he? Where is
That window to the left, he can shoot that window.
Oh my. Oh, excuse me, Spirits? I'm sure he'll want that one back as Fultz not only lives Jesse, but he doesn't take a single point of damage. A very head-scratching altercation between these two players, but one that will give SSG a leg up with 40 seconds left on the clock. Gavin looking for a quick equalization. He won't get it. Diffuser taken out. Only 2 remain from Cloud9 Beastcoast. What remained of Gunner is gone, and all hope rests in the hands of Gavin. SSG have those 3 points in hand. All they need to do is either wait out the 20 seconds or collect the final kill. On to Gavin. GG's early in the chat, and Fultz, who'd survived the earlier scare, will get it done. SSG prevent an explosion on liftoff, and that blast off gives them all 3 points as they rocket up the standings, tied for second.
And a strong win, of course. Those points so important. SSG continuing their domination of North American layer performances. We saw them win it in the offseason. They were the first professional team to ever win layer, and they will win it again here today when the stakes are even higher over Cloud9 Beastcoast. Well played by them across the board. Wasn't always flawless, but I really like the way that they adapted on that defense. Of course, coming through, we're able to find a lot of those players as they were so isolated. Good entries from Ashen, good late rounds from both Benja and Forrest. All 5 players performing on Spacestation today.
Both teams at this point were very, very evenly matched, Jesse, but it's a game of inches, right? And so many of that first half round, so many of those first 6 rounds were characterized by early aggression, where Cloud9 Beastcoast would go looking for an early pick to potentially knock SSG off stride and ultimately lose that engagement and put themselves in an early hole. SSG just played the sides so well. A 5-1 half, doing what you need to do on layer, letting the map work for you, going all over the place. And I mean, they're experienced, they're practiced, and you saw it firsthand. Layer is still being figured out by these teams, so we will see adaptations and changes to the way that this map is not just approached, but is also played by these teams. SSG has always liked to be innovators. So for them to be able to play layer the way that they wanted, it's a hard lesson for C9BC to learn, but they've learned it, and hopefully they will emerge better after today.
And of course for Cloud9 Beastcoast too, I mean, this is not a game where the stakes were crazy high for them. They would have loved to get that top 2 position, but they're already in playoffs. So they don't need to worry about missing out on playoffs like some of the teams that we saw will play and lose earlier today. So certainly going to be a close contest going forward through the rest of the stage.
Well, that's it for you and I, but the desk is ready to break down our final matchup and then end the broadcast as the Super Week in NA has just begun. Take it away, Jacob.
Appreciate you, gentlemen. Certainly sounds like you're having a bunch of fun trying to walk us through yet another layer matchup. But I think for us, it's also good that we get more layer under our belt. But God, man, if you're C9BC, to come really, really close and then have your own tag timeout round get taken away from you and Spacestation converts that sucker, that's a real gut punch when they came so close to winning.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the biggest deal in the world because obviously this is a map that wasn't, we wouldn't say the situation was no risk, but obviously it's a situation where you're not risking not making playoffs. So obviously it's the perfect time to bring out layer, see what you have to offer, see how it fares against other teams. And I mean, I think at the end of the day, this was a really good showing from SSG more or less on how to play layer and how to play an objectively based layer.
Yeah, I agree, and I think also Beast Coast also put up a pretty good fight to, you know, make this a competitive match to say the least. But to go back to the beginning of this, is both teams, I'd say, are very comfortable on it. SSG obviously a little more comfortable on pulling out the win here, but it is important to acknowledge that they are pulling this out now where the stakes aren't so high. So either that can play into favor of them now going into those playoffs of knowing that they can go to this map, or someone will just simply ban it so the map bans can specifically go in their favor, especially when you get into those best of threes where you know that you are guaranteed to at least get one of your best maps. So if you can have a map ban phase go in your favor just because you showed excellence on the newer map, that's a good thing going forward.
I'm going to take a little bit of credit for that infinite overtime game and restart, giving them a little bit of prep before coming into this one. Spacestation are just keeping that whole cycle rolling from the the offseason into right now, and Forrest, Ashen, and J9O all topping the charts. The thing is, every single player was insanely close. No one topped more than 11 kills. 5 people managed to find double digits. Everyone was very, very tight in this game.
Yeah, and that's what I've been talking about, even in the pre-shows, that they are at peak momentum. They are the most team currently in NA that I'd like to say.
It'd be them or Dark Zero, because Dark Zero's on that 5-game win streak now. So
yeah. I mean, you could definitely argue that. You could definitely argue SQ too, but I just think SSG has always been focused about bettering the areas that are weak, and we can actively see that with each game day that has happened. They wanted to make their defenses better. They wanted to make their communication better. And now they're at a point where, like we highlighted in the pregame, they are at peak form. Everybody is comfortable in their new role since getting Benja. I feel like Benja is very comfortable with the SSG mentality and the way they want to play the game, and everything has finally come together, and they are actually playing the vision that they started out by replacing Iconic with Benja, and they are finally there. So hopefully it's about staying there and staying consistent. So obviously the next few games, to them, it's more about pride, but I would love to see it continue in through playoffs.
And we are seeing that, continuous improvement from this team. Like I said, their bank performance against M80, that was the best that I've seen them look just from a team perspective. And then even in this game, granted it was close, I still think it just came down to them just playing really well together is what really pushed them through, what helped them persevere as a whole. So I am really excited to see how they do going into playoffs, and obviously the rest of these matches going forward. And again, to just continue to see this consistency, and like you were talking about, the peak form of this team, I just want to continue to see that as we go forward.
My mentality has always been there's 2 best ways to win. Do it in a blowout to prove that you can dominate, or do it in a really close game to prove that you have the tenacity to stick with it the whole rest of the way.
Absolutely.
So congratulations to Space Station. They are now back in top 2 contention. Want to talk to Ashen real fast. Dude, congrats. When you played in Restart, on that one map against Makers, the infinite overtime game, there was also one layer. How much did that or anything you've done in the offseason over scrims help really prepare you for the monster that layer seems to be so far?
Yeah, I think that that restart game, it was definitely good reps. Obviously, going to infinite overtime, that was a really cool part about it. It exposed you to a lot of different stuff that in like a 12-round scrim you might not see. Obviously, I think we went like 18, 20 rounds, so it was pretty good training in that game specifically. So yeah, it was a good game to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to see you guys play Lair today, but now that you guys have secured yourselves into playoffs, does it change anything of how you guys were going into this week? Is it more about trying new maps, trying new play styles? Obviously, you guys want to place as high as possible, but what does the mentality look like? Is it just about trying as many things as you possibly can leading into playoffs, or just focusing on what you guys have been doing from the start, all about the final finish? What do you think?
Yeah, I think, we're not really focused on the result based, obviously. I think we don't look at it as, let's try new stuff, because, we try to take every opponent as equal. We put the same effort in to prepare for, every opponent. So I think, just going into this week, it's just 3 games in a row. It's definitely, a weak side for like preparation and stuff, but you just got to take it 1 game at a time, obviously, and then, just going into playoffs, same mentality. We're here to win, so we're here to play how we do it in practice, try and translate it, and then hopefully come out with a W. So
once again, I want to congratulate you on yet another win so far. I want to ask you, Ashen, I don't know if you saw the interview or anyone messaged you about the interview prior to going into this game. Hot and Cold specifically said, you're like a chihuahua. You just bark at the heels. That's all you do. And then when you get into the lobby against them, you just turn off your chat. You weren't even there at that point. What do you think about that?
Nothing really else to say, but other than he stole that from us, so he can bring it to his team all he wants. But I don't know what he wants me to do. I don't know if he thinks that I should let this all chat get in my head as a competitor, but I'm trying to limit that. So
we're finding a whole bunch of people now trying to figure out whether they can or can't be in all chat now at this point. I think it's the result of
this. You can't get in Ashen's head. I mean, look at him. He's calm, composed, content with where he's at. I mean,
Mr. Pressure is a privilege over here.
I see a little like, where's the Ashen energy that I've seen for a long time, where you're just like bark, like even in the interviews and all that, you're just like high energy. Now you're a little more mellow, you're a little more calm, but you're like, you still got it. It's just, I think it's tapered down. Is that just due to having more experience in Pro League as you come to, tend to slow down just a little bit in that area, or kind of what's the mentality now?
Yeah, I think my first event, I was pretty loud. I think that was obviously a great vibes thing. And it's still, I say I'm still like a pretty big vibes guy, like energy wise, just the jokes and stuff. But a lot of the loudness, you know, save it for LAN and save it for when you can really
For
get in their
sure.
heads and they can't mute me, right? So
For
it's
sure.
like they can't mute me when I'm in person with them. So
Okay, so
But
so
yeah.
if we see you at Montreal, that's 100% what we can expect out of you.
yeah, I'll be loud. I'll be screaming.
Okay, perfect.
You know me.
Honestly, would have expected nothing less and would have been disappointed if we didn't get that. So the win for Spacestation now puts you back in the 14-point category. That's current top 2, and it's you and Dark Zero currently in top 2 contention, which is above Sonics, but you're right there, like in that mix for the rest of Super Week. The next 2 teams that you have to face over the next couple of weeks, it's Wildcard and then it's Los. Not to say that those results are things that you're going to look at or their current records and think that they're pushovers or anything, but what do you do to make sure that Super Week is an overall success and not slack off because you've already made it into top 2 contention?
Yeah, obviously, you know, some people are going to say that, you know, if they can't qualify for playoffs, then, you know, they have nothing to lose. And I think that's something to keep in mind with how, you know, we're going to go in with our game plan. Because, you know, when people don't have anything to lose and they start playing more aggressive, they just start not caring. So that's something to to keep in mind. I think, you know, you just got to prepare for every game like we have been, and, you know, just be present. That's the biggest thing. Just be present. Be in the game that you're in, not the next one. Don't focus on the one before. Just what's in front of you. Rainbow Six Siege, round 6.
Good answer, brother. Congratulations again on the W. It's going to be a hard road through playoffs once you figure out exactly who you're playing, but at least you know that you're there. Make sure that the rest of this week is a good, strong finish, dude, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Space Station are up there in top 2. The 2 teams in the top of the league currently are the 2 teams with only 1 loss.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it would be, you know, when you look at the start of the stage and versus where it's at now, I'm just going to repeat this again. Like, this has been a very highly competitive stage. There's not in many scenarios where you could just call something just being so one-sided, because we just saw today with a 7-1, that being the first time in taking Playday 7 to see that, whereas other regions, we saw those early on.
I will say, too, the teams that are at the top, I feel like had the most diverse map pool that we've seen as well.
Sure,
Every team that has tried to go back to a clubhouse, go back to a consulate, go back to a labs, I feel like they always end up losing, especially to the better teams. And so far, because that's been a strategy that a lot of teams think of, is let's just go to the same map over and over and over again until we get the playoffs. But the teams that so far at the top have shown a wider array of maps and have won all of them. So I don't know. I think if anything, it shows more. It shows that the teams at the top really deserve to be at the top. Obviously, we'd like to see teams like what's it called? We'd like to see teams like C9BC, SQ, LG play more of a map pool. But obviously, I mean, we'll have to wait till playoffs to get the chance to see that.
I mean, get away with as many points as you possibly can while repeating the same maps, right? Let's do a recap on how day 7 went. The first day of the Super Week is in the books, and it looked like this. We started off with M80 finally getting the first 7-1 of the stage. Dark Zero follow up with a long one. So do Wildcard in order to keep playoff chances for a couple of teams alive. Same thing with Space Station getting their dub and forcing themselves into top 2. Honestly, pretty good day overall.
Yeah, we thought the games, I mean, we said at the start, like, you know, don't sleep on any of the games. All of them could be extremely close. And besides the first one, they all really were. I really liked what we saw from Oxygen especially. I mean, I think a lot of people have kind of written them off maybe up until today, and they didn't have an easier week. They play C9BC tomorrow. They have to play, I believe, LG after that. So to see them at least put up a fight against Dark Zero definitely shows that they're not just laying down and saying the rest of the stage is over. If teams got to go through the LCQ, every team that's in that contention to potentially go through LCQ, they're all trying to take from the losses, whether win or loss, they're trying to improve themselves to LCQ. So it's nice to see that nobody's just kind of given up at least.
Yeah, and especially with Wildcard getting that win today, getting those 3 points, that definitely allows everyone to not just fall flat, that they still have a chance, even if some are obviously smaller than others, but that win and not allowing Luminosity to gain any points has put a little fire in some of these teams' hearts. But again, that is a very small chance for some of these teams, whereas Wildcard, again, going into tomorrow, they need to get that win.
Standings check in. It's actually still Sonics at the top because of the tiebreaker from earlier is round differential, not head-to-head, but it still puts Sonics and Space Station with a tie at 14, which is going to mean it's between them and Dark Zero most of the rest of the way for the best chance to qualify. M80 don't have that many chances. There's only one game left for them. Same thing for Wildcard, so it's going to be really, really tough going into the rest of Super Week.
Yeah, so my prediction of M80 getting first this stage definitely isn't looking too great, huh? I mean, they are.
What, they would have to win, and then everyone else would have to lose out.
Yeah.
And then DZ would have to like lose by some crazy round diff for their last 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see that the top is still, like, everyone can swap. I think, obviously, the biggest change of the day is Wildcard taking over LG with their win. And, I mean, you know, that's definitely going to make things a little shaky because Wildcard only gets to play 1 more game tomorrow, and then they're done for the Super Week. Whereas the rest of the teams towards that bottom, I believe LG plays twice.
Yep.
So it's definitely going to come down to a little bit of luck.
Yeah, those are definitely going to be the games to be watching for the rest of this week, is really the bottom of seeing who can clench that last spot, and if it will stay wild card, if Luminosity will come up, or even if Los somehow manages, which again, that's the little bit of hope that I'm talking about, is Los really has to rely on a lot of these teams to go in a different way and then really excel in their own game. Obviously, being the first 7-1, they need to really ramp up their performance and get those 3 points.
Schedule for Super Week Day 2 is thus. There is a couple matchups in here that really, really depend on how the first couple games go. Los still have a shot. It'll come down to Sonics to start with. I don't even know what happened over there.
Because I was just talking about like Los has to, like, you know, they really
Los has hope. And then the first thing was Los SQ, and he goes, well.
It's kind of the same thing with OXG. OXG are still not out of the playoff picture, but then they have to play C9 BC. Even if C9 BC have lost 2 games straight, that's still a pretty formidable opponent.
I mean, all the lower teams right now all have very hard games. I mean, you have Los against Sonics, you have Oxygen against C9 BC, you have Wildcard against SSG, and Luminosity against DZ. Every game, theoretically, tomorrow should be a good one if the lower teams really show up tomorrow and really try to persevere and get those wins underneath their belt.
Yeah, realistically, realistically, to put it simply, if Luminosity wins out, which they play against DZ tomorrow, which is a very difficult game for them.
Godspeed, brothers.
But then they play against OXG, so there is a possibility where LG could lose both of their days.
Yeah.
And then be stuck in that position. But if LG wins out, then they take 6 no matter what.
Yeah.
So Wildcard has to hope that they at least can get a win to make it a little bit more difficult for Luminosity.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, it's in Luminosity's hands because they get to play both days back to back.
This is going to be a fun one. Super Week always brings out both the best and the worst in teams, has the chance to take an entire stage and turn it upside down for better or for worse. Teams that thought that they were safe might absolutely not be if teams below them win out, and the teams that you think probably have a chance may come oh so close, but then still can't make it to playoffs. And that's why we like Super Week. 3 days in a row, we're done with one. Day 2 of Super Week starts up tomorrow, and the only thing we have to do is sit back and let the carnage completely take full. Thanks a lot for joining us on Day 7. We'll be back same time, same place yet again tomorrow for Day 2 of the Super Week of the North American League. For all of us here in Philadelphia HQ, have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Ouais, choque-les. Choque-les. Ouais, choque-les. 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 Ouais, voilà ce qu'ils me disent. Les entends parler et ils médisent. J'arrête que pour rafler la mise. Petit pas sur la piste. Et le succès, je l'ai pisté. Vise que la place du premier. Je fais monter la côté. Sur moi, tu mises gros. Tu connais déjà l'équipe. Ça criera au complot. Je prends le double, on est quitté. Je fais la magie des chiffres. La somme je la triple, la concurrence la dribble. Et le stade est en délire, ça fait choquer. J'arrive pour tous les choquer. Toute la foule elle est choquée. J'espère que t'es accroché. Gauche, rageux. Coach m'a rajouté